to the build series of the RS001 Audi Quattro Group S car. Thanks for all the comments. We've really taken on board what you guys have said, and we're going to do some more doing because everybody wants to see some doing. So this episode we're going to be doing the brake hoses and the plumbing for the air jack system, and we're going to be just doing odd bits and pieces for mounting sensors and handbrakes and yeah, all sorts of stuff really. So we'll try to cover as much as we can. We've got some other parts arriving today from Imacoat, so they've coated all the exhaust system and tailpipe and stuff for us. So as you can see, we've got Snoop, our emotional support dog. Hey. So he's bad for productivity, but good for mental health. So yeah, please like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and yeah, let's get the party started. So this is what the finished product looks like. So it's really hard to get a good clean lines with all your lines really. So a lot of the time you sit there and just ponder where the hoses are actually going to run throughout the chassis of the car. So quite often you just sit here like, oh yeah, will it go here, will it go there? And quite often you have to buy like a lot more fittings in advance to just try different scenarios of whether you're going to add it through a 90-degree fitting or a straight fitting or whatever. But this is kind of what we've come up with now. And as you can see, it's nice contours of the chassis. There's going to be some more water hoses going over here as well. So once the water hoses are actually in place, that's when we'll cover them up. And then we'll put some nice chassis tags to support the actual hoses and stuff like that. So everything will be nice and secure. And you've also got to keep in mind that we haven't got all the parts in the car at the moment. So normally there's a battery that sits here and some other parts, so, and a seat as well. So you've got to trial fit things to make sure that everything works properly really. So that's kind of why I pre-bend some pipes just to offer up into the chassis and just make sure that, you know, it's not gonna, you know, sort of rub in places and look crap really. It's got to look good, doesn't it? So it costs the same amount of money to make it look good to make it look crap. So, you know, you may as well make it look good. Yeah, so this alloy hardline that we use for the air jack system is actually really, it's quite easy to manage really. So it's very, very soft to a point, and then you can kind of, as you can see, that was a little bit wonky and stuff. So you can kind of, you could bend out, you know, any sort of kinks and stuff that you've got in it. Then all I've got is a simple pipe bender that can house different diameter pipes, and then this just allows the pipe to be put in like so, and then you've got a little dial gauge here to show you 45 degree or 90 degree, and that just allows you to bend around to like so. Then that's it. You've got a beautifully formed 90-degree bend, and that just allows you to then use that for your mock-up, for your other bends really. So one of the bends that we have to modify, we still have to make the front pipe here, and so it's going to come from the bulkhead, and we need to connect the front two air jacks here. So instead of going, because the chassis is a little bit lumpy and bumpy and stuff like that, we're not going to worry about following the contours of the chassis and stuff like that. We're literally just going to go straight over the top of the actual front A-arms. And it won't look out of place once all the parts and stuff are in there as well, because as well as that, we're still going to have like looms attached to it and other stuff like that, so they can be all tied in together really. So the way each like union fits onto this jobby as well, so you got to make sure there's no chamfer on the end of it, and then basically the end slides on. You've got a little olive that goes on as well, and then that's it really. That sort of goes into like a certain amount in there, and a little bit of oil on the thread, and then that's it. And once that's clamped up, you'll never get that out. It won't move, and then that'll withstand the air jack pressure, which is very high. I can't remember what it is. I'll look it up and we'll put it in a magic thing that appears on YouTube that we make sure that we say the right thing with. And then that's it. And once this is kind of done, you can still sort of bend it and make it like contour the shape of the chassis and other stuff like that as well. So yeah, quite a neat installation really.
Summer solstice got me high, yeah. Does it make you wanna scream? Summer solstice got me high, yeah. Does it make you wanna scream?
This side of the build, it's I think people underestimate the actual cost of all these fittings and bits and pieces. I think I've spent probably about £900 plus the VAT on just fittings for the brake system and for the air jack system. And although each individual part is not massively expensive, but there's lots of them, you know, so you start to buy like a banjo bolt, and this might be, say, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 quid. Yeah, there's cheaper ones, but when you want one that's like, you know, nice aluminium and anodized and stuff like that, that's when they start to jack up the actual price really. But for me, I kind of think you don't want to revisit things afterwards, because if you have regrets when you build a race car, then you won't enjoy it, will you? You know, it's so satisfying to like come back and look at your car and go, oh yeah, I wouldn't change a thing. Because, you know, it's all good saying, oh, I'll just put this cheap part on to tie me over for, you know, this next round or whatever. I mean, I don't get me wrong, you know, if the money's not there, the money's not there, but you just gotta buy the best you can afford, and then, you know, you won't regret it then. That's how I sort of do it anyway. So, yeah. You've got to have the right tool for the job, and I love this tool. Gets me out of the trouble every time. So when using a Bosch Motorsport ABS system, they're really, really good with the documentation and notes. So they even tell you how to flare the pipes that you're going to use and how to securely mount them in the car. So they refer to the brake hose connections, how you should crimp them, and it's actually a DIN connection that you're meant to, or DIN or a bubble flare that you're meant to be doing. And as you can see by this lovely tool, we have a DIN connection. So we'll show you how to crimp one of these using this lovely tool, made in Britain. That's it. Have a perfect flare nut. DIN. So one of the things with the ABS system that's a requirement is the use of hard lines. So you're meant to use hard lines out of the actual ABS system unit, and then that just basically gives the pedal a firm pedal and allows the modulation of the brake fluid to be correct. Now, one of the things I'd like to do in between the ABS unit and the brake pedal box is I like to use the stainless steel flexible lines for that. And that gives you two things. Like some people say, you know, oh yeah, it's you're not meant to do that because they give a spongy pedal feel and whatever. But you've got to remember, when an ABS system is doing its thing and kicking back pressure back to the master cylinders, that's how it works. So if you've got, say, 100 bar brake pressure and you've locked a wheel, you've got to get rid of that pressure. So the pressure comes back. So coming back to the actual master cylinders, I always think with a little bit of flexible line and that sort of dampening to it, it'll actually save the actual master cylinders themselves, you know, so they'll last a bit longer. Although on the Alcon pedal box, we do have ABS specific master cylinders that take that sort of abuse. You really got to make sure that you do have a master cylinder that's up for the actual job. And what I'm going to do with this application is we're just going to incorporate a little sensor mount that's going to mount onto the chassis, and that will allow us to run the brake pressure for the front, rear. We could also log the clutch pressure to make sure it's working correctly and all that sort of stuff. And we've actually got an additional one for the actual gearbox pressure. So this will allow us to mount the actual sensors into here. We'll have some nice dashery fittings on either side, and it will just allow a nice little bulkhead connection for the actual hoses to interface into, okay? So, one of the things with this car, if you ever receive a car from John Webster, if there's a hole that's meant to be there that's 8 mil, it will be 8 mil. If it's 6 mil, it'll be 6 mil. And it's a pain, because after it's been painted and whatever, like, it always takes up that little bit of clearance and whatever. So you have to wrestle with it, put it all back together, and it's a pain. So you're almost better off getting a car from John, coming back home, drilling all the holes about 0.5 mil bigger, and then away you go. So it'll be so much easier, but hopefully you won't watch this video. So that'll do. Now I just got to mill some end blocks off the thing. So that's what you do when you build a car. You end up doing laps around your workshop, don't you? Trying to find all the bits that you just had in your hands. These little lugs here we're going to have to remove. So I'll pop them in the mill and then take them off. Is it worth wearing safety glasses for the safety cars, please? That'll do. So these are the pressure sensors that we use. So these come with a Bosch ABS system kit. They do a range of sensors that are very similar in, or exactly the same in diameter and shape. And we've got the same for the gearbox pressure and the clutch pressure. So yeah, it's perfect. So really, these are probably about a 250 bar pressure sensor. So normally when you're driving, you probably see brake pressures of about 60 or 70 bar brake pressure, and then it tapers off a little bit. Normally when you're about to crash, it's up about 90, 110 bar, which we've seen before. And then clutch pressure, you can actually see similar pressures in clutch pressure as well. So clutch pressure is not normally needed that much, but it does help with things like the launch control strategy and stuff like that. So we just want to be able to data log the way that the clutch gets released and how the car reacts to that sort of information, really. So data is key. You know, the more sensors you could have on it, the better it is, really. It's a thread sealant, so probably don't have to run it, but I always do. Just helps things, really. So it's got a nice copper washer that locates and seals things, but yeah, can't beat a bit of thread sealant. Just stop things from, you know, coming. Actually, I might just tighten them up before I get too much further. So. Soft jaws so you don't damage things. Yeah, I just got to find a socket for this now. Managed to line the connectors up as well. So we'll just pop all these fittings in now. These are from Racing Line, so these are little 8th MBT to -3, and these will be the connection for the hoses. So basically what this allows the line to do is one goes in between each other, and then the fluid passes through it, and then the pressure sensor also tapped into the same hole. That then allows the pressure to be read electrically. Okay. This is just a little grub screw for the gearbox pressure, because we only need to monitor the line pressure, so we don't need the fluid to flow through the pressure sensor. So we'll just blank one side off, and then that'll allow us to do that. So as you can see, we've got a new engraving tool at EPS, so we're making use of that. We've written down what the different functions are for it, so when we want to look it up later, we can make sure we know what we're doing. So yeah, we'll tighten all these up, and then that'll be fine, they'll be ready to go. So we've got some parts back from anodizing now. So these are all the roll cage brackets that we're going to use in the vehicle, and these are all being made by Rickwood Racing, and we've had them all anodized nice shiny black, and that should keep them nice and protected and ready to go really. So that's one of the next jobs after all the plumbing's done, is we'll start to get all the steering systems in the vehicle, and also the suspension. So most of that should go very quickly, because it should just, in theory, just bolt up really. So, but going back for the final time, we just need to make sure all the correct fasteners are used, and you know, all the suspension moves correctly, and away we go really. The adapter for the pressure sensors is back in place now, so now we can go ahead and make the -3 pipes that are flexible lines that run from the adapter to the actual brake to the ABS module. That's what it is. It's my first day, so you've got to leave us alone. Right, one of the things I like to do with this project, and also like for my customers as well, is these Racing Line hoses, they come with like a long ferrule on them, and we could bend them to exactly what we want to bend them to, because you don't always want a 45-degree or an exactly 90-degree bend to make a bit of symmetry in the way that the pipes run in the car. You know, sometimes you need a 30 or a 25 or something like that. So these actual fittings allow you to bend what you want to make sure you've got the correct dimensions, and it keeps the flow nice, and you could get a much nicer, cleaner look in your plumbing and stuff like that. So these pipes come with like a plastic coating over the top of them. So they're like a stainless steel braid with a nylon insert. So they'll take brake pressure and all the bits and pieces. And the plastic braid over the top's really good, because when they got like the full stainless steel braid, they're quite abrasive to all the components that it's close by or rubs against. So it just makes life easy really. So we just got to take the little nib off the end of that, and that's it. And now we need to get an olive to go on the end, like so. Then the insert goes into here, and there's a little line that you've got to line up the actual olive end with it. So you've got to move that down slightly to So line those two up like that. That's it, boom. That's it, you got a nice crimped end and that will not get damaged. Now, being good quality control, we should measure this. So I'll get some vernier calipers and there's a measurement, a crush measurement of the flat surfaces. And then long as all the fittings are within that measurement, it means you've not over crimped the actual hose and you've not under crimped it. So there's no risk of failure or stuff like that. So we always like to keep a little bit of quality control, especially when it comes to brake hoses. There you go, it's going to be 7.8. So we'll live with that. This is what you do all day, is you do little full circle engineering, trying to find all your tools that you've had lying around. I found my heat gun, it's just here. The last thing you got to do is put a bit of blatant marketing racing lines heat shrink labels over them. Now, if you do this wrong, there's a guy at Racing Lines that will come around and beat you up at night time because he's quite precious at, it's not even turned on. He's quite precious at making sure you put the labels on correctly. Always heat the bottom of the label, not the top of the label. And then when you're nearly finished, that's when you can heat the top of the label. Bam. That's cool, isn't it? How you can bend them exactly how you want, isn't it? You know. So one of the problems that we had with the dry sump system and the closeness to the chassis was the outlet of the actual dry sump system pickup pipe was going to hit the chassis. So thankfully the manufacturer of the pump, Titan, they do these swept bends here and they make them in like a 90 degree, and I think that's going to be perfect for us. And so what we've got is we've got a couple of like AN-16 fittings that we can weld onto this pipe once it arrives, and that will allow us to like clear the chassis, and then we could run the pipes exactly where we want. So I think that should fix that problem. So we'll have to get the old TIG welder out and crack into that. And I don't know if I'll get John to weld that up. I think I might do. So all the rear hard lines are done for the air jack system. So all I've got to make now is a crossover pipe for the air jack. So one of the things we had to do for that is just put the oil tank in, so that way we can sort of see where we sort of want to run the pipe. So I think I'm just going to run the pipe just along this chassis rail here, then up and onto the other air jack this side, okay? Well, thanks everyone. I hope you've enjoyed a bit of the doing, because we've had a good time. So we've got some exciting stuff coming up. The guys from Imeco are going to come down, drop off the exhaust system, so I'll get that all fitted to the vehicle, and after that it should go quite quickly, the assembly of the vehicle as well. So now all the plumbing's sort of 50% there for the brake system and air jacks. We could then start to put all the prop shafts in, drive shafts, and then we could start to do the suspension system for the vehicle and all the roll bars and steering columns and stuff like that. And then after that, yeah, keep going, I suppose. There's still loads to do. So there's no kidding yourself that it's going to be ready this side of Christmas, because yeah, you can spend hours in this garage. And thankfully it's not actually that bad. You know, I do quite enjoy this phase of the build. So yeah, please like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And we'll see you next one.